I can speak again! But honestly, I'm not sure if I should even be reviewing this. Ratchet and Clank is the first of what will be a steady stream of films based on video games, seeming to embrace the idea that to make a good video game adaptation, the film should mildly resemble the game in some way. Yeah, Silent Hill and others, but still. However, I am not a video gamer, so there's a limit to what I can really talk about. Of course, ideally, an adaptation should be able to stand up on its own, but apparently we've all decided a series can totally survive on the power of fan service alone. So, I don't know, maybe in the eyes of the video game fans, this movie is secretly a masterpiece with impressive metaphorical insights on the themes of the game, but I kind of doubt it. But still, for the sake of the other non-video gamers, let's give this a shot. Ratchet is an overenthusiastic, skilled youth who dreams of becoming part of a world-saving team, but is initially dismissed and discriminated against because of his size. Bored. His idol is an ultra-masculine, brain-dead, insufferable, narcissistic jagoff who shockingly turns out not to be as tough or as honorable as he initially thought. Bored. Meanwhile, a one-dimensional bad guy in a space station has a planet-destroying ray. Bored. And then this technologically inclined, troublemaking prodigy teams up with an adorable robot, bored! Yeah, it's not just that I can spot all of these similarities, it's that they were all done way better than here. Okay, before we lay into this, let's at least acknowledge. The film might only land about a third of the jokes it aims for, but at least some of them are actually funny, and most of the ones that don't at least aren't cringeworthy. Though in a step beyond the best jokes are in the trailer trend, this time the best joke is the trailer.
We'll discover a beautiful friendship. Maybe not beautiful, but definitely attractive. Like a 7.
Yeah, that was pretty much the highlight. Also, it is my new rule that every time a movie mentions texting or says seriously, it loses 2 points.
Stanley, are you texting?
No doubt likely influenced from the game, it has a lot of creative weaponry. The secondary villain is kind of fun as a standard self-aware bad guy, and Ratchet is a pretty routine shonen jump protagonist, Galactic Rangers, Hokage, King of the Pirates, which is neither good nor bad, but Clank, the adorable robot, is easily the best part of this movie, as the logical observational straight man to everyone else unable to even mildly overcome their basis of alien impulses. And while I can't vouch for how exact they are, the character in space designs are somewhere between generic and mildly interesting. It is basically a really long cutscene that frankly looks like a barely better animated version of Jimmy Neutron with boring uniform lighting and terrible color sense, but I think I might be running out of positive counterstatements. Well, nothing about it's intellectually offensive or rage-inducing, so there's ultimately nothing harmful about it just being a disposable, adequately animated, kid-friendly adventure space romp with the theme of the action jocks versus the nerds and bored! Why am I working so hard to give this film a break? Out of some presumptuous critic philosophy where I don't completely denounce a film because there's a 1% chance that someone amongst the billions of people on Earth will like it, and I don't want that person shouting at me in the comments? Well, fine. Enjoy your formulaic fan service. Lord knows we all have our guilty pleasures. And for as harmless as it is, I would willingly submit my kid to all 94 minutes of this before showing them 30 seconds of Breadwinners. But for my money, I managed to say some not terrible things about it. And no, it's not as bad as the movie. I didn't even want to draw the mildest bit of attention to it by even giving it a review, which had nothing to do with me trying to finish my worst to best list. But this movie is just not good. It's boring, it's annoying, it's boring. I don't hate the villain's secretary, but other than that, it's boring. But if I had to point out one major flaw that, if fixed, probably could have made up for a lot of its faults, it would be the lack of engagement and use of our two title characters. When the two first meet and go on their first space mission, they have decent chemistry, and it's easily one of the better highlights of the film. But it may be my fault for assuming this, but I thought that when two characters' names are in the title, the film would largely focus on these two characters and possibly the relationship between them. After all, aren't there like 7+ games with these two as partners? Why are they partners? Are they friends? Do they work together grudgingly? But after their first initial mission, the two are either not in the same room together or out of the movie entirely for almost the entire second act. Instead, the character and story focus is either on the villains or on Captain Quark, Ratchet's annoying, narcissistic childhood hero. In fact, after he spends the first act being one of the most irritating irritating cocky jackass characters of all time, and remember, I just saw Damian Wayne being himself for over an hour, but he gets the way more compelling if forced character arc, taking up most of the second act. And I had no idea why. If it's called Ratchet and Clank, why are we focusing on this character so much? Well, of course, with the barest bit of research, I found it was because he's a major reoccurring character in the video game. In fact, from what I understand, this movie is broadly based on the first game, but also includes characters, references, and fan service from almost all the games. And this included trying to incorporate the gist of this character's personal arc, which originally spread over something like 5 games. Then Ratchet shows back up in this movie just in time to blame himself for something that wasn't his fault, so we can do the Pixar end of second act internal introspection, which is completely ineffectual because he's been out of the movie for almost 20 minutes. Or maybe he did do 1 or 2 things in that time, but if he did, he left so little an impression I straight up forgot he was there, which is not a good sign. But yeah, the movie is way more about his relationship to Reynolds' Green Lantern Captain Hammer hybrid knockoff than it is with the way more interesting, way better character that he's partners with in all of this movie's source material. Heck, he has a more interesting relationship with his John Goodman boss than Clank. I will say that the Quark arc manages to counteract the borderline irredeemably obnoxious presence in the first act, so I can still say that nothing in the film was rage-inducing, but it was still not enough to make him a sympathetic enough character for me to root for. So I cannot in any conscience recommend this film to any older viewers who aren't fans of the video game. But ultimately, I also can't hate the film because that would imply it left any sort of impression on me, outside of bored. Recommendation level 1.5 for non-gamers. Comment, like, subscribe, etc., and you stay incredibly shiny, Animaniacs.